The old man didn't look dangerous. That was what Sophia Reed told herself the moment she noticed him standing beneath the flickering red glow of the diner's sign, motionless in the rain like a ghost the city had forgotten to bury. Outside, Manhattan drowned beneath sheets of cold November drizzle. Taxi lights smeared across the wet pavement in streaks of gold and crimson while exhausted strangers hurried past without looking up. Nobody noticed the old Korean man trembling beside the rusted patio railing. Nobody except Sophia. From behind the fog diner window, she froze mid-wipe, the damp rag hanging loosely from her hand. Something about him felt wrong. Not threatening, just painfully out of place. His coat was old but expensive. His shoes were polished despite the storm. And his hands shook so badly he could barely keep himself upright. Sophia swallowed hard. She had seen homeless men before. This city was full of them. But they usually carried a certain emptiness in their eyes, a practiced exhaustion that came from years of being ignored. This man's eyes were different. They carried fear, ancient fear, the kind that didn't belong on the streets. "Don't even think about it," her boss muttered from behind the counter, not bothering to look up from the register. "We're closing in 20 minutes. We ain't running a charity." But Sophia barely heard him, because the old man had suddenly gripped the iron railing tighter, his knees buckling for a terrifying second before he steadied himself again, like he was trying not to collapse. A sharp ache twisted inside her chest. She knew that feeling. The feeling of being one bad day away from falling apart while the entire world kept moving like you didn't exist. And before she could stop herself, Sophia reached for a bowl, filled it with hot potato soup, grabbed a spoon, then stepped out into the freezing rain toward the stranger who was about to change her life forever. Sophia pushed through the diner door, and the cold rain immediately wrapped around her like ice. The old man flinched at the sound of the bell behind her, his tired eyes darting up with quiet alarm. Up close, he looked even worse. Rain clung to the silver strands of his hair. Deep lines carved through his face like cracks in old stone, and yet there was something unmistakably dignified about him. Even exhausted and trembling, he carried himself like someone who once commanded respect. "Sir," Sophia said softly, careful not to scare him, "you should sit down before you fall." For a moment, he simply stared at her, confused and guarded. Then his knees weakened again. That decided it. Sophia quickly guided him beneath the small awning outside the diner and helped him into one of the empty patio chairs. He lowered himself slowly, breathing hard, like even sitting required effort. She placed the bowl of steaming soup in front of him. The old man looked down at it in silence. Then he tried to lift the spoon. His hands trembled too violently to hold it. Sophia felt her chest tighten. Without thinking, she pulled another chair beside him, dipped the spoon gently into the soup, and raised it toward his lips. The old man hesitated. Then slowly, he opened his mouth. For several long seconds, neither of them spoke. Rain tapped softly against the awning overhead while the city rushed around them in blurred streaks of noise and headlights. But beneath that tiny shelter outside the diner, the world suddenly felt strangely quiet. Sophia fed him another spoonful, then another. The old man ate slowly, carefully, as though warmth itself had become unfamiliar to him. His trembling eased slightly with every bite, though his tired eyes never fully left her face, like he was trying to remember her. "You're safe," Sophia whispered gently, surprising herself with the words. The old man blinked. Something fragile flickered behind his expression. Gratitude, perhaps, or grief. Then, almost too softly to hear, he spoke in heavily accented English. "Why help me?" Sophia paused. Nobody had ever asked her that before. She glanced toward the glowing diner windows behind her, toward the customers laughing over coffee while her own overdue rent notice sat folded inside her locker. Because honestly, she didn't even know. Maybe it was because she understood loneliness. Maybe because the city had already taken too much kindness from people. Or maybe because leaving him alone out here simply felt wrong. Sophia gave a faint smile and lifted the spoon again. "Because you looked hungry," she said quietly. And for the first time that night, the old man smiled back. 2 days passed. The storm disappeared, but the memory of the old man stayed with Sophia like a song she couldn't stop hearing. She found herself glancing toward the diner window every few minutes, half expecting to see him standing there again beneath the neon lights. But he never returned. By Tuesday evening, The city had settled back into its usual rhythm of sirens, traffic, and exhausted strangers chasing survival. Sophia was refilling ketchup bottles near the counter when headlights suddenly swept across the diner windows. A black sedan rolled silently to the curb outside. Every conversation inside seemed to dim. Sophia looked up slowly. The car was impossibly sleek, its polished surface reflecting the city lights like black glass. It didn't belong in this neighborhood. Cars like that belonged downtown beside luxury hotels and guarded penthouses, not outside rundown diners smelling of burnt coffee. Then the rear passenger door opened. A tall man stepped out. He wore a dark tailored coat that looked more expensive than Sophia's monthly rent. Broad shoulders, sharp jawline, cold eyes that scanned the diner with unsettling precision. The atmosphere changed the moment he entered. Even Sophia's boss stopped talking. The stranger closed the door quietly behind him and stood near the entrance like a man completely comfortable with silence. Then his eyes locked onto Sophia, and somehow, that felt worse than shouting. The man approached the counter with slow, controlled steps. Not rushed, not hesitant, certain. Sophia felt her pulse quicken as he stopped directly in front of her. Up close, his presence was overwhelming, calm in a way that felt dangerous, like someone who never needed to raise his voice to be obeyed. "I am looking for someone," he said. His voice was deep, smooth, touched by a Korean accent that sharpened every word. Sophia forced herself to stay still. "We get a lot of customers." The man studied her for a moment too long. Then he spoke again. "An elderly man," he said quietly. "He was here 2 nights ago." Sophia's stomach tightened instantly. Images flashed through her mind. Trembling hands, rain-soaked hair, frightened eyes staring into hers beneath the awning. The stranger noticed her reaction immediately. "She fed him," he said calmly, glancing towards Sophia's boss without taking his eyes off her. "Outside, with a spoon." Fear crawled slowly up Sophia's spine. How did he know that? Her fingers tightened around the edge of the counter. The man took one step closer. Not threatening. Somehow worse. "Where is he now?" he asked. Sophia's heart hammered painfully inside her chest. Because suddenly she understood something terrifying. This wasn't a worried relative searching for an old man. This was a hunter looking for someone who had escaped. Sophia forced herself to breathe evenly. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said carefully, though her voice lacked confidence. The stranger remained silent. That silence was unbearable. His dark eyes stayed fixed on her, calm and unreadable, as though he already knew she was lying and was simply deciding what to do about it. Behind Sophia, plates clattered nervously in the kitchen. Even her boss had gone quiet. The entire diner felt frozen. Then the man slowly reached inside his coat. Sophia's body tensed instantly. For one horrifying second, she thought he was reaching for a weapon. Instead, he removed a leather wallet. From it, he pulled a crisp stack of bills, separated $100 note, and placed it gently on the counter between them. The money looked painfully bright beneath the diner lights. "For your trouble," he said. Sophia stared at it without moving. $100. More money than she sometimes made in an entire weekend. Enough to buy groceries. Enough to pay part of her overdue electricity bill. But something about accepting it felt wrong. Like taking the money would make her part of whatever this was. The stranger watched her quietly for another long moment. Then, without another word, he turned and walked toward the exit. The bell above the diner door rang softly. Outside, the black sedan disappeared into traffic. But the fear it left behind stayed sitting beside Sophia long after the car was gone. The $100 bill stayed in Sophia's apron pocket for the rest of her shift. Heavy, burning against her skin like something cursed. Every time she touched it, she remembered the stranger's cold eyes and the way the entire diner had gone silent when he walked in. Whoever that man was, people feared him without needing to be told to. And somehow, that frightened her more than open threats. By the time closing hour arrived, rain had started falling again, thin and icy against the glowing city streets. Sophia pulled her coat tighter as she stepped outside, exhaustion weighing on her shoulders. Then she froze. Across the street, parked beneath a flickering street lamp, sat the same black sedan. Waiting. A sharp wave of panic shot through her chest. The windows were tinted dark, impossible to see through, but she could feel the presence inside watching her. Sophia considered turning back into the diner. Or running. But deep down, she already knew neither option would matter. The rear passenger door slowly opened. The tall stranger stepped out once more, his expression unreadable beneath the rain. "Miss Reed," he said calmly. Hearing her name from his mouth made her stomach twist. He motioned toward the open car door. "Mr. Park would like to speak with you." It sounded polite, but Sophia understood immediately that it wasn't a request. And for the first time since meeting the old man, she truly felt afraid. Sophia's feet refused to move. Rain dripped from the edge of the diner awning while traffic hissed through the wet streets behind her, but all she could hear was the sound of her own heartbeat. "Who is Mr. Park?" she asked carefully. The stranger held her gaze for a moment before answering. "The son of the man you helped." Sophia swallowed hard. Relief should have come. Instead, the fear only deepened. Because men like this didn't spend hours searching for waitresses just to say thank you. The stranger seemed to sense her hesitation. "He wishes to express his gratitude personally," he said. "Nothing more. Nothing more." The words felt rehearsed. Sophia looked toward the sedan again. The interior glowed faintly beneath soft golden lights, impossibly luxurious compared to the crumbling apartment waiting for her across town. Everything about this situation screamed danger. But another thought pushed through the fear. The old man. Was he safe? Had he been hurt after leaving the diner? Sophia tightened her grip on her bag. "If I go," she said slowly, "I want to know he's okay." For the first time, something shifted in the stranger's expression. Not warmth exactly, but respect. "He is alive because of you," he replied quietly. The words hit harder than she expected. Then the stranger stepped aside and gestured toward the open door once more. "Please," he said, and against every survival instinct screaming inside her, Sophia climbed into the car. The door closed behind Sophia with a soft, heavy thud. Instantly, the noise of the city vanished. Inside the sedan, everything felt unreal. Warm leather seats, dim amber lighting, the faint scent of expensive cologne and polished wood. It was a different universe from the cramped apartment and greasy diner she knew. Sophia sat stiffly, clutching her bag against her lap. The tall stranger took the seat across from her without speaking. Then the car began to move. Outside the tinted windows, Manhattan blurred past in rivers of neon and rain. Familiar streets slowly disappeared, replaced by towering glass buildings and luxury hotels glowing against the night sky. Sophia's anxiety tightened with every block. She suddenly became painfully aware of how small her world had been before this moment. After nearly 20 minutes, the sedan descended into a private underground garage guarded by security gates. The doors opened automatically the second the car approached. That terrified her more than guns would have. Power like this didn't need weapons. The stranger finally spoke. "My name is Kong Tae." Sophia looked at him carefully. "You work for Mr. Park?" Kong Tae's expression remained unreadable. "I protect him." Something about the way he said it sent a chill through her. Not because it sounded loyal, because it sounded absolute. A private elevator waited nearby, and as its doors slowly opened, Sophia realized there was no turning back now.